What's up? My name's Dan Schumacher. I'm a game developer here at Stugan, and I have a background with a major in recreation, sport, and tourism from the University of Illinois. Now I'm working on my first game called Brimshire League Manager. It's a sport management game where the player is in control of a manager and they follow the evolution of a sport over time. So it's a turn-based sport management game. So essentially there's two phases to the game. The first one is kind of the meta game, the long-term thing that the player is doing, which is managing their roster. So they're starting off with a roster of these different creatures that all have their own unique abilities and stats and backgrounds. And then throughout the game they can trade those players for other players, they can draft new players, they can sign free agents for gold. They can sell their players for gold, and kind of like there's just this roster management element that's inspired heavily by games like XCOM and Darkest Dungeon. And then the second phase of the game, which is the core loop of the game, are the matches that the manager will play every week. And essentially there's a schedule that's generated at the start of every season, and the player will play these matches on a grid, and they're turn-based and time-based, so certain actions cost a certain amount of time, and actions that are better, or maybe you'll have a more accurate shot, will take a longer amount of time and thus is a bit more risky. It's essentially soccer, but with the end zones from American football. The interesting part about that for me is that at the end of every season, every manager in the league will have an opportunity to vote on rule changes for the league. And those will be things like expanding the size of the grid, or adding like additional athletes to your team. Like you can have like 4 on the field instead of 3, or banning certain athletes if they're too overpowered. And that's kind of what I envision being the thing that really keeps players continuing to play, because they see the sport start off as a fairly simple, basic, fun game, and then over time it'll evolve and change based on their input. They'll be able to like bribe other managers to vote for whatever they're voting for, so that way maybe like there's one team that has won the championship back to back and they're really good, and you realize they have like 3 athletes that use this one particular move that's just super overpowered, so you can decide, oh, I want to ban that move, and then if you get enough managers on your side to vote for it, then it's banned, and all of a sudden that team has to kind of change their roster to account for that. This game is pretty ambitious, particularly because it's my first commercial project that I'm working on. So I'm guessing that it's going to take a very, very long time, several years at least. So I'm also not going to be able to work full-time on it. I need to find, something that'll pay my bills immediately first. So my plan is to kind of keep on grinding, keep on working on it in my free time, on weekends and whatnot. And I think what would be best for me is to release maybe 1 or 2 smaller games that I can complete in a much shorter amount of time, just that way I go through that experience of polishing a game to completion, releasing it, marketing it, and learning from any mistakes that I make, any things I can do better. Especially like as a programmer, I'm sure there's so many things I could do better, and I can learn, you have to do something to learn how to do it better. So I want to get that experience first, because this game, I really feel strongly that this game can be really unique, and it's not a game that really exists right now. So I really want to get it right and make sure that I don't just release it as my first game with all these like big problems that I could have had the foresight to see if I had had that experience. Yeah, so Stugan's been absolutely incredible. I mean, first of all, it's great to be able to finally spend like all day working on my game. Back home I didn't really have that luxury. I had to pay the bills and whatnot. So out here it's just a great opportunity to really be able to get work done and see if I can actually be a developer, since I'm coming from such a different background. But the biggest thing for me getting out of Stugan is just meeting so many other developers. Here it's just been really amazing being able to work with so many people and ask them, oh, how did you do this, how did you do that, and like just making friends and connecting with all these people in the game development community that I previously didn't have really any connections to. So it's been really nice, and like seeing like all the crazy different games that everyone's working on. Like no one's working in like the same genre at all, so it's like really fun seeing how their backgrounds influence the kinds of games that they're making. And it's just, I mean, it's crazy that this program exists. It's really incredible. So one of the biggest reasons why I decided to start making this game is because I've played all these all these sports games that have some sort of franchise mode, like NBA 2K, FIFA, Madden. Like, they all have a mode where you can control a team and be the manager of that team and do all these cool things where you're like managing a roster and making trades and building, you know, a team that can compete for championships. But pretty much all of them, I'll play like 2 or 3 seasons, and by then I've won the championship back to back. I have the best team, and next year my team's going to be even better. And it just gets so boring because it's like, what's the point of playing if I'm the best team and like it's the same game every time? So with this game, I feel very passionately that I can kind of beat that cycle, because all these games, they're constrained to whatever real sport they're simulating. Whereas this game is kind of being built in mind with a sport that changes over time. So hopefully there will be enough replayability that people will actually want to keep playing, and it won't be the same thing every season. They'll know, oh, next season, you know, like my team was really bad last season, but next season, like, I have a chance because we changed the rules and it's going to be completely different. And that's kind of my main inspiration for making the game. Thanks for watching. If you want to follow along with the development of Brimshire League Manager, you can follow me on Twitter at Schumacher21. I post a lot of GIFs and stuff, just kind of like, we're early in development right now, but it should be fun seeing how it changes over time. Bye-bye.